Hi guys, I am back and with a slightly different setup. So this might take me a little bit of getting used to, so just bear with me. I don't know what this light is right here. It's driving me nuts and I don't know how to get rid of it. So please ignore it. I asked you guys what you guys kind of wanted me to go over, and a lot of you said that you wanted me to revisit the number system. Number system is what we've started with in module 1. So we had adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing decimals, but we also had positive and negative numbers, absolute value, and opposites. So we haven't really seen those in a while, so I thought that today would be a good day to kind of review those. Module 1 also had coordinate planes, so graphing on the coordinate plane, but I think that that's just too much to get into in one video, so I'm going to try and stick with these, potentially throw some word problems in, just kind of depending on the length and like how long this takes me. Okay, so let's get started with positive and negative numbers. So positive and negative numbers, we're typically going to see them written on a number line. And our number lines can be written two ways. They can either be written vertically or they can be written horizontally. So a horizontal number line is more of like your traditional number line that we've been introduced to before. Well, this is weird. So this would be an example of a horizontal number line. A vertical number line is a number line that's going up and down. When I'm talking about both positive and negative numbers, I usually want to start with my 0 in the middle, okay? So 0 here or 0 here. That's kind of messy, sorry. 0 here depending on whether you're doing it horizontally or vertically. I'm actually going to just kind of erase this vertical one, and I'm going to just start with the horizontal one for right now so that it's not too much. But when I'm typically graphing a number line, so every number line you guys have seen since, I don't know, kindergarten, I don't know when you guys first saw a number line, the numbers go from smallest to bigger. So we start on the left-hand side, and those are the smaller numbers, and they get bigger as you travel to the right. So the same is true when I have a positive and negative number line. The numbers over here to the left of 0 are our negative numbers. Our negative numbers, I like to think of those as like a debt. That is like something that's not quite there. So this would be like money I owe, and this would be like money I have. That's how I typically think of negative numbers. So when I'm graphing negative numbers, when I graph numbers on a number line, I'm still going to start like I would normally do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on my right-hand side, because I know that my right-hand side has my positive numbers and my numbers go from bigger to smaller. I start with the smaller numbers on the left and I have the bigger numbers that are going to the right. Now, when I am writing my negative numbers, I want to be clear here. I'm still going to start with 1. But now that I'm going into negative land, I'm just starting with -1. But if I'm looking at all of my positive numbers, if I'm talking about rational numbers or whole numbers, 1 is always going to be the closest number to 0, right? Like obviously not including fractions or decimals. If I'm talking about whole numbers here, 1 is always the closest number to 0. When we're talking about negative numbers, -1 has to be the closest number to 0. So -1 would go here, then -2, then -3, then -4, then -5, and so on and so forth. A big mistake that I see is people saying, okay, I have to graph -1 to -4, or -1 to -5, so I'm going to do -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. That is not how that works, okay? You have to make sure that right next to your 0, 1 jump away on either side is a 1. So 1 jump to the right is +1, 1 jump to the left is -1. 2 jumps away is +2. 2 jumps away from 0 to the left is -2, okay? So when I'm talking about my negative numbers here, remember, positive, I don't know why I keep saying this wrong. When I'm talking about a number line, positive numbers always go to the right and negative numbers always go to the left. Now, if I were to draw this as a vertical number line, it's a little wobbly. If I were to draw this as a vertical number line, I'm still going to start with my 0 in the middle. But if I have a vertical number line, typically numbers get higher as you go up. But typically, I mean always. Numbers go up as you go up. They get higher as you go up. So I would go 1, and then I would go 2, and then I would go 3, and I would go 4. The same thing that I said about horizontal number lines is true about vertical number lines. So what I mean by that is that 1 is the closest whole number to 0 on a vertical number line. -1 has to be the closest negative whole number to 0. So there would go -1, -2, -3, -4. 1 always has to be 1 jump away. Okay, whether I have a positive number line, a vertical number line, or a horizontal number line, it doesn't matter. 1, whether it's +1 or -1, always has to be 1 jump away. Well, that's kind of hard to read, isn't it? Hang on, I'm bringing this forward. Okay, this seems better to me. I don't know. Bear with me, you guys. This is a learning curve for all of us. I think I'll get better. I hope I'll get better. We have a few weeks to figure it out. Okay, so I've been talking about how many hops something is from 0. So we did this in class, and I want you guys to stand here, and I want you guys to do this with me, and I want you guys to stand up, and I want you guys to pretend like you're on 0, okay? And I'm going to be like, okay, hey, move to 1. How many steps are you going to take to go from 0 to 1? 1. I'm just going to take 1 step over, right? If I take 1 step to the right, I went from 0, if I'm standing on 0, now I'm on 1. How many steps you are away is your absolute value, or how many hops you are away is your absolute value. Basically, your absolute value is just asking you how far away is that number from 0. When I'm talking about how far I'm moving, can I move negative steps? No. I can move 5 steps to the right. I can move 5 steps to the left. I can move 100 steps to the left. I can move 100 steps to the right. But I can't move negative steps. The same is true for absolute value. When I'm asking you the absolute value, I'm asking you how far away from 0 am I? When I'm talking about distance from something, you can't be negative, right? I can't be -5 miles away from the store. I can't be -10 miles away. I would just be 5 miles in a different direction. The same is true for absolute value. Absolute value can never be negative. When we're asked about absolute value on any problem, it's always written in between 2 straight lines. So you're going to see if they were on a... I'm so far. Little chompy's right underneath me, so I have to be careful. If I'm asking for absolute value, it's going to be written in between 2 straight lines. So what this question means is, what is the absolute value of 1? How many steps would I have to take in order to get to 1? The absolute value of 1 is just 1. Okay, but I also drew a hop to -1. So if I wanted to know what's the absolute value of -1, it's written still in between those 2 straight lines, okay? How many hops would I have to take if I'm standing on my 0 right now? How many steps would I have to take to get to -1? Still only taking 1 step, right? I'm just going 1 step in the different direction. But absolute value is not asking me direction. All absolute value is asking me is how many steps are you taking, or how many hops are you taking? The absolute value of -1 is still just 1. Because remember, you can't be a negative distance away. I don't measure distance in terms of positives and negatives. I measure distance in terms of miles, right? And you could just be in a different direction, or I'd say feet, or whatever distance or whatever unit I'm measuring with. But I'd still just say in which direction. All absolute value is asking you is how far away it is. So the absolute value of any number is just the number itself, but it cannot be negative. So if I were to ask you the absolute value of, say, what is the absolute value of -23? How many steps away from 0 is -23? It's just 23, right? If I were to ask you the absolute value of +23, still 23 steps away. It's just in a different direction, right? Whatever your absolute value is, or whatever your number is, the absolute value is just how far away is that number from 0. So it's really just a number, just not a negative, okay? Absolute values can never be negative. Okay, I'm going to have a little mid-lesson quick quiz for you. I want you to pause, and I want you to work out all of these problems on your own, and then I want you to come back when you have finished. This is asking you for the absolute values of these numbers. Pause. All right, I'm assuming you've paused it, and I'm assuming that you've answered all of the questions that I answered all these questions, right? Okay, so let's go through our answers. The absolute value of 7. How far away is 7 from 0? Just 7, right? Absolute value of 1,000. Hi, Jumper. 1,000. The absolute value of -46. Absolute value can never be negative, so this has to be +46. The absolute value of -72. How many steps away from 0 is -72? It's just 72 steps, right? I'm just going a different direction. What's the absolute value of 18? 18. And what's the absolute value of negative 7,832? You'd think that it would be harder, but it's not. It's just 7,832. Make sure that you got all of these right. And if you accidentally put a negative sign on one of them, just remember, absolute value can never be negative. I would never say you have to go to the store and you're going to take negative 14 steps to get there, and then you're going to take positive 47 steps in a different direction. No, I would just say you're going to take 20 steps to the right and then 20 steps like to the left or something along those lines, right? I would never tell you negatives when I'm talking about distance. It's not like when I enter Google Maps, it's like, all right, go negative 47 feet and then go 172 feet and then go negative 352 feet. No, that's not how directions work. Directions are always positive. Remember that. Distance is always positive. Absolute value just means distance. How far away is it? Okay? Okay, now I'm going to get into a talk about opposites. So if I were to choose any number on my number line, remember this means that it goes on indefinitely. It goes on forever. But I obviously don't have space to write until infinity. All right, so I wrote till 5 and negative 3. If I were to just choose a random number on here, I'm going to say 3. Okay? First, I want to find the value of 3, or the absolute value of 3. How far away is 3 from 0? If I'm starting at 0, right? How many times do I have to hop to get there? So I have to do 1 hop, 2 hops, 3 hops. The absolute value of 3 is 3, correct? When I'm asking about opposite, I'm asking for what other number is also just 3 hops away from 0. Okay, well, I already have 3 covered. Okay, that was 3 to the right. What's the opposite of going to the right? Going to the left, right? So if I'm starting at 0, because I'm always starting at 0, 0 is my starting point. If I'm going 3 steps to the right, or 3 hops to the right to get 3, what would be the opposite of that? Well, the opposite of going 3 hops to the right would be going 3 hops to the left. If I go 3 hops to the left, where do I end up at? Negative 3. Okay, an opposite is really just what other number is the same distance from 0. So say I asked you for the opposite of negative 47. Well, I know 47, or negative 47, is just 47 hops to the left, right? Because I'm going into the negatives. Now, what number would be 47 hops to the right? Positive 47. An opposite, all it is just switching the sign. Okay, so if I asked you for the opposite of 15, it would be negative 15. If I asked you for the opposite of negative 47, it's positive 47. If I asked you for the opposite of 1,030, it would be negative 1,030. Basically, all I'm asking you is what would be the number if I went the same amount of hops, the same absolute value, just in a different direction, okay? Sounds a little bit more confusing than it is. Just switch the sign. That's all you're doing. If it's a positive, turn it into a negative. If it's a negative, turn it into a positive. Okay, now I want you guys to work on finding opposites, okay? So I want you guys to pause the screen, and I want you guys to find the opposite of these numbers. But I want you to remember, when absolute value can never be negative, opposite can, okay? Opposite is just the opposite sign, right? It's the opposite. Think about that when you're pausing and you are solving. Alrighty. I'm assuming you've come back because you have your answers and you're ready and you've checked them and you feel confident in them. So let's go through this. The opposite of 42, negative 42. The opposite of negative 4, 4. The opposite of 7 is negative 7. The opposite of negative 18 is positive 18. I should really write the answers in a different color. I'm going to do that next time. Hopefully, maybe I won't remember. The opposite of 1,052 is negative 1,052. And the opposite of negative 748 is just positive 748. All I did was turn my negatives into positives and my positives into negatives. I just want to know what is the exact same distance away from 0, just going in the opposite direction. All right, now I'm going to sort of get into what this would look like as a word problem. I have time. We're gonna go through it, okay? So when I'm talking about negative numbers, I'm talking about things that are below 0, right? So if I have money in my bank account, then I have a positive amount of money in my bank account. Things are looking good for me. we're cool. Even if I have $2, at least I don't have negative $2, right? Because if I have negative money in my bank account, if I check my bank account and it tells me I'm in the negatives, I'm a little worried right now, okay? Because what that means is that I am now in debt. That means I owe money. That means that I really don't have a single dollar to my name and I still borrow a little bit more than I had, right? When I'm talking about debt, I'm talking about negative numbers. So if I said something along the lines of, I have $42 in my bank account. If I were to ask you to write this as an integer, all I'm asking you to do is tell me, is that a positive number or a negative number? If I have $42, things are looking good for me. I have monies, right? This would just be written as 42, right? Okay, another word for having money in your bank account is having a credit. If I have a credit, I always think about this as extra credit. Extra credit is a good thing. Credit means that I have money. Debit means that my money is below zero. Credit, good. Extra credit, good. You want that. Positive. Don't get this mixed up with credit cards. Don't think about it in terms of debit and credit cards. That's not right. That's not right, okay? Debit means a noun, okay? Credit up, debit down. Credit up, debit down. Okay, so if I told you that my bank, not my bank, I wasn't going anywhere with that. I have a debit of $78, and I asked you to write that as an integer. A debit is negative, okay? So that would be negative 78. Got it? If I said I have a credit of $78, that would be positive 78. So when I'm thinking about positive and negative terms, I would even pause this and make a list, okay? Pause it. We're making a list together. Get a piece of paper, get a pencil, get chalk, get eyeliner. I don't care what you get something, okay? Words that represent positive things. I don't know where I should write this. Maybe, I'm running out of space. Feeling overwhelmed. That's silly. I don't write with that hand. Okay, positive would be things like credit. I got money, right? That would mean, we'll add to this. We'll add to this as we go along because right now I'm in the money example and really credit is all I can think of. Negative would be, oh, I know, deposited. If I deposited money in my bank account, that means I added money. Okay, so negative numbers. I'm doing a different color. Who am I kidding here? Words that represent negative. I'm all over the place. I apologize. Negative would be debit or withdrawal. That's a funny looking word. I don't know if I spelled that right. Let me tell you. Siri, withdrawal. Yeah, I did. We're good. Okay, these would both represent negative. If I withdraw money from my account, that means that I am taking money out of my account. That would be going into the negatives. Not necessarily going into the negatives, but I would be taking it out. I'm subtracting. This represents subtracting money. This represents adding money. So our positives are really adding. Our negatives are really subtracting. That's kind of what it looks like. That's why our negative sign really just looks like a subtraction symbol. Yes, that's what's happening, right? And our positive symbol, I didn't even think about that. And our positive symbol just looks like an addition sign. Wow. Okay, so when I'm talking about money and I'm talking about positives, I'm talking about words like credit and deposit. When I'm talking about negatives, I'm talking about words like debit and withdraw. So if I said that I withdrew $7 from my bank account, that would look like this on my bank statement. If I withdrew $42 from my bank account, or if I spent $42, that would look like this. Now, if somebody sent me a check and I deposited a $47 check, then my bank account's going to be looking good. I got $47 put into my account. That's going higher, right? But when I'm talking about positive and negatives, I'm not just talking about money. Positive negatives can also be talking about something called elevation. So let me sit so we can talk about this. Elevation is essentially how far away are you from sea level, okay? When I climb a mountain, I'm going up, right? That's how mountains go. If I am here, this is sea level. It's my beautiful ocean. Okay, if I'm at sea level, I'm at 0. I'm not farther. I'm not higher than sea level. I'm not below sea level. I'm just kind of here at 0. So 0 is at sea level. But say I get off the beach and I decide to climb this mountain. It's snowing naturally, okay? And I'm at the top of this mountain. Now I am above sea level. This right here would be in the positives. So when I'm talking about being above sea level, I am in the positives. Now, say I take my little scuba tank and I go scuba diving, and now I'm down here. Wait, I got it here. I gotta put goggles on now. Okay, and that's my scuba tank. And I gotta have flippers. Oh, that looks good. Okay, now I'm all the way down here with my little scuba suit. Okay, now I'm in the negatives. So this would be below sea level because I'm all the way down there, right? If I'm at sea level 0, and we know this. If I'm drawing, think about it as like a vertical number line. Negative numbers are below, right? Positive numbers are above. So being at the top of a mountain, I'm going to be in the positives, but being at the bottom of the ocean, I'm going to be in the negatives. Okay, my last drawing, I know you're thinking, Missy, what is that? It's obviously a thermometer, okay? Obviously, it's my beautiful drawing. There's a glare on it. Well, but you can kind of read it if I do that, okay? So a thermometer is just anything that we use to measure temperature. You could use the thermometer to take your temperature if you're feeling sick, right? This is what they looked like when I was a kid, but now they just pop up on the screen with like a number, but this is a traditional thermometer. This is also what they use to measure temperature outside, okay? So this is just another example of when you're going to see positive and negative numbers. Negative numbers just means colder, okay? So if I'm talking about temperature, this would be hotter temperatures. This down here would be colder temperatures. So the closer to 0 I get, if I'm talking about positives here, the closer to 0 I get in the positives, the colder it is. But when I'm talking about negatives here, it's just the further I go down, the colder it gets, right? If it's negative 27 degrees outside, that's really cold, right? But if it's 115 degrees outside, that's hot. I don't want to be there. I want to be in a pool. Basically, I just want you guys to realize that this is another example of when you'll actually see positive and negative numbers in the real world. Okay, so the next logical step here would be to be going over coordinate planes, because we kind of went over negative or number lines. So that's what I'll go into next. But like I said, I just think that would be way too much for one video. So next video, coordinate planes. This is something that I really think that we need practice on, because 6th grade is the first time you're having a 4-quadrant coordinate plane rather than just the 1 quadrant. So make sure you guys are following along with the videos, watching them every day. Hopefully we're going to get a little bit more idea of what we're going to be doing within the next few weeks, but I will keep you guys updated at any point. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. I got you. I'm here for you. Message me, comment, anything. I miss you guys. I hope you're staying safe. Bye.